Okay, picture this. You're in your self-driving car and it's about to crash. The car has to make an impossible choice: save you, the passenger, or swerve and save a group of pedestrians. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating science of how we trust machines to make these incredible moral decisions.
You know, this isn't some far-off sci-fi problem anymore. This is happening right now. Engineers are literally writing the code for these choices, and it really gets to the core of this whole self-driving revolution. Can we ever truly be comfortable letting a machine take the wheel in a life-or-death situation?
I mean, think about it. Before we see millions of these cars on our streets, they have to earn our trust, right? And this ethical puzzle, this deep-seated anxiety about a computer making a moral call, well, it's a massive roadblock.
So, to get to the bottom of this, a team of researchers, Thomas Titiané, Julian Clorec, and Lars Meyer-Warden, conducted this really fascinating global study. They wanted to know, is our trust in a moral machine the same everywhere? Or does our culture totally change the answer?
All right, so to really get what they discovered, we first need to understand the two big ideas they were testing. It all boils down to the car's level of automation and, you guessed it, its moral code.
First, let's talk about automation levels. You've probably heard of Level 2. This is what's in a lot of new cars already. Think of things like advanced cruise control or lane assist. The car's helping out, for sure, but you are still the driver. You've got to be ready to take over at any second.
And then you've got the holy grail, Level 5. This is full-on, sci-fi level automation. We're talking no steering wheel, no pedals. The car is the driver. It handles absolutely everything, everywhere, from the moment you get in to the moment you get out. Okay, so that's automation. The second piece of the puzzle is the car's moral programming. They looked at two main approaches. The first is self-protective. Pretty straightforward, right? The car's number one job is to protect its passengers, no matter what. The other option is utilitarian. This one's programmed to save the most lives possible, even if, and this is the tough part, even if that means sacrificing the people inside the car.
So, you've got these two big variables: how automated the car is and what its ethical code is. The big question is, how on earth did the researchers test how these things actually affect our trust? Well, they designed a really clever online experiment. They got 900 people involved and had each person read one of 8 different versions of a short news story about a self-driving car. And here's the smart part. They tweaked the stories. Some cars were Level 2, some were Level 5, some had self-protective logic, others were utilitarian, and some stories talked about a minor fender bender, while others described a fatal crash.
Now, where they did this study is super important. They specifically chose the United States, Mexico, and China. Why those three? Because tons of previous research has shown that people in these countries have really distinct cultural worldviews, especially when it comes to ethics.
And just to make sure the data was solid, they got a nice, balanced group of 300 participants from each of those countries. That way, they could make some really robust comparisons.
Okay, so let's get to the juicy part. What did they actually find out? Well, the results are fascinating. They basically show that culture changes everything when it comes to trusting this kind of tech.
Right off the bat, even before anyone read a single story, there were huge differences. Participants in China started with the highest level of trust in self-driving cars. Mexico was somewhere in the middle. And folks in the US, they had the lowest trust from the get-go. But here's the thing. That initial feeling of trust, it's pretty fragile. The researchers saw that the second people read a news report about a fatal accident, everything changed.
And this is where it gets really wild. In the US and Mexico, when people read about a deadly crash, their trust in the fully autonomous car actually increased. But, and this is a huge but, only if it was programmed to be utilitarian, to save the most lives. It's like in a crisis, they wanted the machine to make that cold, logical calculation.
But get this, in China, it was the complete opposite. When faced with that same fatal crash scenario, the utilitarian save the most lives programming made people's trust absolutely plummet. So the very same logic that built trust in the West actually destroyed it in the East. Wow.
And this really hammers home the study's main point. The researchers themselves said it best. Our cultural worldview determines how we react to a machine's ethics. What that means in plain English is there's no single right way to program a moral machine if you want to sell it all over the world. It's just not one size fits all.
So what does this all mean for the future of self-driving cars? What should automakers and, all of us take away from this?
While the researchers lay out some really clear practical advice, first and foremost, you have to localize the ethics. Automakers can't just copy-paste their programming and marketing from one country to another. Second, they need to be transparent and concrete. Just saying it's for the greater good can actually backfire in some places. And third, and this is a big one, the best way to build trust is to let people experience the technology for themselves, in a positive way. Think test drives, shuttle programs, that kind of thing.
And you can see how this plays out differently in each market. For a place like China, with a more collectivist outlook, having the government stamp of approval and emphasizing safety standards is huge. For a country like Mexico, hands-on, tangible demos are key to making people comfortable with the car's ethics. And in a more individualistic market like the US, the best weapon against bad press is getting people into the cars for real-world trials.
When you boil it all down, this whole thing is a powerful reminder that the success of self-driving cars isn't just about flawless engineering. It's just as much about psychology. You can build the most perfect, technically advanced car in the world, but if people don't feel like its values align with their own, it's just not going to fly.
And that really leaves us with a final, pretty deep question to chew on, doesn't it? As this technology becomes our reality, the biggest puzzle we have to solve isn't just if we can build these moral machines, it's which morality we should build into them in the first place.